pretty weak run, that first one, so.
Let's do it.
Well, you can tell, look at that. Look at that material coming on the end of that. It's still really dirty.
It is, yeah. Pretty good hole, Wano.
Go on that bank, huh? Maybe?
Just gonna do a little test on their coarse tailings coming off. See if there's gold coming out of.
No one saw this coming. Not the crews working the ground. Not the analysts studying the data. Not even longtime fans who thought they knew Freddy Dodge's every move. But moments ago, everything changed. Freddy didn't just find gold. He exposed a hidden vein that had been sitting in plain sight the entire time. This wasn't luck. It wasn't a rumor or a gamble. It was a calculated decision that turned a forgotten stretch of land into a jaw-dropping $98 million discovery almost overnight. While others walked past it, wrote it off, or assumed the ground was tapped out, Freddy paid attention to the numbers, trusted the soil, and followed his instincts. That single choice rewrote the entire story. And what makes it even more unbelievable is how close everyone came to missing it forever. One wrong assumption, one test left undone, and this gold would still be sleeping beneath the surface. So if you want to see exactly how this discovery unfolded step by step, hit like and subscribe. We're racing toward 10,000 subscribers, and you'll want to be here when history gets made. Because once you understand how Freddy identified this vein, it becomes clear why this could go down as one of the smartest gold moves ever pulled off. This wasn't luck. It wasn't a rumor or a gamble. It was a calculated decision that turned a forgotten stretch of land into a jaw-dropping $98 million discovery almost overnight. While others walked past it, wrote it off, or assumed the ground was tapped out, Freddy paid attention to the numbers, trusted the soil, and followed his instincts. That single choice rewrote the entire story. And what makes it even more unbelievable is how close everyone came to missing it forever. One wrong assumption, one test left undone, and this gold would still be sleeping beneath the surface. So if you want to see exactly how this discovery unfolded, step by step, hit like and subscribe. We're racing toward 20,000 subscribers, and you'll want to be here when history gets made. Because once you understand how Freddy identified this vein, it becomes clear why this could go down as one of the smartest gold moves ever pulled off. It all started with a desperate call for help that turned into something far bigger than anyone imagined. Out in the harsh, unforgiving hills of Gold Ridge in western Montana, brothers Kevin and Lynn Dietz were watching everything they'd built slip away. Their mining operation wasn't just underperforming, it was on life support. Each day began with hope and ended the same way. Disappointment. Pan after pan came up nearly empty, barely enough to cover fuel, let alone turn a profit. These weren't dreamers chasing easy money. Kevin and Lynn had invested everything, savings, years of work, their reputations, into this claim. They studied the land, bought the right machinery, and pushed themselves to the edge physically. But none of it seemed to matter. The gold just wasn't showing up. At least, that's what it looked like. "We're running out of daylight fast," Kevin said, exhaustion weighing down every word. "We've got to finish this, no matter what it takes." They had reached the end of the road. One last option remained, a last-ditch call to Freddy Dodge, a man known for spotting gold where others see nothing but wasted ground. When Freddy arrived, the reality was even worse than expected. The equipment was barely holding together. The crew's morale was shot, and the ground they'd been working looked completely tapped out. "You're not making money," Freddy said plainly, scanning the operation. "No," Kevin replied, his voice tight. "Not even close. We're in serious trouble." But this is where Freddy Dodge is different from everyone else. He doesn't just evaluate what's visible. he looks deeper, at what's been ignored, misread, or completely skipped over. He reads the land the way others read reports. Freddy pulled out a topographic map and walked the entire claim with Kevin. The property was long and narrow, twisting through the valley like a serpent. It had been heavily worked for decades, torn apart by generations of miners armed with grit, hope, and explosives. To most people, that land told a story of exhaustion and failure. But Freddy saw something else. Freddy didn't see failure, he saw a mystery waiting to be solved. As they followed the creek downstream, Freddy suddenly stopped in his tracks. Towering beside the water was a massive rock wall, stones stacked carefully, running straight along the creek's edge. This wasn't random rubble. This was deliberate construction. Long ago, miners had moved an unbelievable amount of rock, some boulders as big as compact cars, just to reach what lay beneath. Freddy ran his hand along the stonework and shook his head. "Look at this," he said. "Nobody does this for no reason. They didn't have machines. They didn't have hydraulics. If they put in this kind of effort, the gold here had to be worth it." Kevin agreed, but one question lingered. If the old miners worked this ground that hard, how could there be anything left? That's where Freddy Dodge thinks differently. He doesn't mine like everyone else. He blends geology, pattern recognition, and instinct. Part scientist, part detective, part risk-taker. Since the original miners left, nature had gone to work. Hillsides eroded, sediment slid downhill. The creek slowly shifted its path. The land wasn't the same anymore. Ground that looked empty on the surface could be hiding untouched pay dirt just a few feet below. Freddy studied the creek carefully. Every curve, every flat stretch, every subtle rise and drop. Then it clicked. He stopped at a flat section tucked inside an old bend in the creek, an area that looked almost forgotten. "There," Freddy said, pointing. "That's our test spot." This is the science most people miss about gold mining. It's not guesswork, it's physics. Gold isn't like sand or gravel. It's insanely heavy, nearly 19 times denser than water. When a creek flows fast, it carries everything along. But when the current slows, the heaviest materials drop first. That's why the inside of a bend is prime real estate. The outside curve is violent and eroding. The inside curve is calm, forming natural traps where gold settles, year after year, century after century. The spot Freddy chose was perfect, just far enough from the main current that the old-timers likely ignored it while chasing the obvious high-energy zones. But to Freddy, it was practically shouting potential. "Fire up the trackhoe," he said. "We're digging." The brothers exchanged tense looks. This single test would decide everything: keep mining or walk away for good. The machine clawed into the earth, stripping away layers like pages from an ancient record. First came useless topsoil. Then, 3 feet down, they hit rounded river rock. Freddy's face changed instantly. "That's it," he said. "That's what we want." These weren't random stones. They were smooth, polished by centuries of moving water, evidence of an old creek bed. And old creek beds mean one thing: gold. Freddy scooped up a bucket of damp, brown pay dirt and walked to the water. The brothers watched silently as he dropped to one knee and began panning. Panning is simple in theory, difficult in practice. Water, motion, gravity. Separate the heavy from the light. In most hands, it takes patience. In Freddy's, it took moments. As the lighter material washed away, flashes appeared at the bottom of the pan. Not dust, but real gold. Chunky pieces, undeniable. Kevin leaned forward, barely breathing. Freddy kept washing. The gold thickened, forming a bright arc along the pan's edge. "Take a look," Freddy said softly. "This is triple what you've been pulling." For the first time in months, the brothers felt it. Hope. But Freddy knew better than to celebrate yet. Because finding gold is only half the equation. Keeping it is the real challenge. Here's the brutal truth of mining. Even the richest ground is worthless if your equipment can't recover the gold. And the Dietz brothers' wash plant? It was hemorrhaging money. Freddy watched it run for less than 5 minutes before shaking his head. "Shut it down," he said. "This thing's bleeding gold." The feed was uneven. Material piled up on one side of the sluice box. The riffles, the very traps meant to catch gold, were buried under inches of gravel. Gold wasn't being caught. It was being flushed away. Over the next 5 days, Freddy and his trusted mechanic Juan tore the system apart and rebuilt it piece by piece. First problem, the hopper feeder. A broken drive chain caused erratic surges. Juan replaced it, restoring a smooth, consistent flow. In mining, steady feed equals steady recovery. Second, the distribution chute. Material was dumping to one side, smothering half the riffles. Juan fabricated a custom chute, precisely angled to spread pay dirt evenly across the entire sluice. Simple fix, massive impact. Third, the riffles themselves. Freddy ripped out the old ones and installed brand new riffles tailored specifically for this claim's gold. Because not all gold behaves the same. This site produced fine gold, the hardest kind to capture and the easiest to lose. Freddy calibrated the riffles perfectly, strong enough to trap gold, gentle enough not to blow it out. Finally, the secret weapon. Under the riffles, Freddy laid down specialized miner's moss and carpet, materials packed with thousands of tiny fibers designed to grab microscopic flakes. Each flake alone is worth almost nothing, but over a season, those flakes turn into serious money. By the time they finished, the wash plant wasn't just fixed, it was reborn. A precision-built gold recovery machine designed to capture every last particle. Now came the moment of truth. 80 minutes. That's all it took to change everything. The plan was simple and ruthless. The decision was final. Run the plant for exactly 80 minutes, twice the length of their last failed attempt, and let the results decide everything. No explanations, no retries. The numbers would either prove the mine could survive or confirm it was time to walk away for good. When the massive diesel engine thundered to life, the atmosphere shifted instantly. This wasn't just a machine starting up. It felt like belief coming back online. Kevin climbed into the loader and began feeding the plant with the dark, mineral-rich pay dirt pulled from the exact spot Freddy had flagged. The moment the first bucket dropped into the hopper, the difference was undeniable. Water flowed smoothly down the rebuilt sluice box in a clean, even sheet. No more favoring one side, no more dead zones. Every inch of the box was alive. The new distribution chute was doing exactly what it was designed to do. Juan stood watching the flow and nodded. Before, it was the same thing over and over. Plugged, clogged, backed up, he said. Now, this is perfect. Rounded river stones rattled and rolled through the system, the sound steady and almost rhythmic. From the loader, Lind radioed down. "That material looks really good. I like it." Each bucket dumped into the hopper brought them closer to the truth. Freddy stood beside the sluice box, eyes locked on the slurry as it moved across the new riffles and custom mats. The physics were lining up. The vortexes were forming exactly as planned. If gold was present, and they believed it wasn't escaping. Time crept forward. 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes. Then, right on schedule, Freddy lifted his hand. That's it. Shut it down. 80 minutes. Kevin cut the engine. The sudden quiet was overwhelming. Water dripped softly. Heartbeats filled the silence. This was the moment that would decide everything. Freddy and Juan moved carefully into cleanup mode, rinsing down every mat and every riffle, making sure nothing was lost. All the heavy concentrates were collected into a single 5-gallon bucket. The brothers stood close, tension etched across their faces. One cleanup, one weigh-in, their future hanging on a single number. Freddy dumped the concentrates into a large gold pan and began working them down. His movements were calm and deliberate, washing away the lighter black sand with practiced motions. As the waste spilled over the edge, something began to appear at the bottom. First a sparkle, then a glow, then a thick, unmistakable line of gold. Kevin's eyes widened. Lind exhaled slowly, realizing he'd been holding his breath. Freddy kept refining the pan, pulling the gold tighter and tighter together. When he was satisfied, he transferred it carefully into a drying pan and set it in the sun. As they waited, Freddy laid out the standard. "Before I got here, your best run was 0.06 ounces, he said. To call this a success, we need at least 0.12. Double your recovery. Anything less, and you're still in trouble." The gold dried. Freddy scraped it into a neat pile and poured it onto the digital scale. The numbers flickered, then settled. 0.44 ounces. For a moment, no one spoke. No one moved. Then Kevin let out a shout that echoed across the valley. 0.44 ounces, a 350 to 400% increase in gold recovery. At current prices, that single 80-minute run produced roughly $900 worth of gold. But the real victory wasn't the cash. It was the confirmation. The ground was rich, and now they finally had the equipment to capture it. For the first time in months, the Dietz brothers weren't just scraping by. They were staring at a real future. And this was only the beginning. From $900 to $98 million. The projection that changes everything. So the question everyone is asking now is this. So how does a $900 cleanup even begin to point toward a $98 million payoff? The key is understanding the difference between a sample and a resource. That 0.44 ounce result wasn't the total amount of gold in the ground. It was a test, just a small snapshot showing what that section of ground was capable of producing. The moment Freddy saw the numbers, he started breaking them down, calculating the true grade of the material. Based on that 80-minute run, the math became very clear. For every 100 cubic yards taken from that specific zone, the plant could reasonably recover around 2 ounces of gold. And 2 ounces is no joke. At current prices, that's roughly $4,000 per 100 cubic yards. Scale that up, run 10,000 cubic yards through the plant, and you're suddenly looking at around $400,000. But here's where this discovery jumps from impressive to unbelievable. The pay streak Freddy identified, the ancient creek bed, wasn't a small, isolated pocket. Geological indicators suggested it was a long, winding deposit that could stretch hundreds, possibly even thousands of feet across the claim. And Freddy didn't stop with a single test hole. Over the following days, he walked and mapped the entire property. He traced erosion patterns, studied elevation changes, and compared modern observations with historical mining records. Again and again, the results came back consistent. High-grade material, multiple locations, same story every time. Now the math starts getting serious. Imagine a pay streak that's 10 feet wide, 3 feet deep and runs for 1,000 feet. That's roughly 11,000 cubic yards of material. At 2 ounces per 100 yards, that equals about 220 ounces of gold, worth well over $440,000. But what if that streak runs for 2,000 feet? What if it widens to 15 feet in certain areas? What if there are multiple ancient creek channels running parallel to each other? That's exactly what Freddy began to uncover. He identified at least 5 separate zones on the property with nearly identical geological signatures. Each one represented a potential ancient creek system, each one capable of holding its own gold-rich deposit. That's where the $98 million projection comes from. Not as a guarantee, but as a best-case scenario. If all 5 zones hold, if the pay streaks stay consistent, if the recovery rates Freddy engineered into the plant are maintained. Mining is never certain. Pay streaks can thin out. Conditions can change. Equipment can fail. But one thing is undeniable. Freddy Dodge turned a mine that was on the brink of collapse into one with real generational potential. And what makes this discovery extraordinary isn't just the gold, it's the way Freddy found it. Where others saw exhausted ground, Freddy saw opportunity. Where others focused on areas already mined, Freddy focused on what had been overlooked. Where others trusted assumptions, Freddy trusted geology. Freddy has said it himself. Anyone can get lucky and catch a nugget, but find gold, the kind most people lose, that's what proves your system is truly working. That belief guided every decision he made on the Dietz brothers' claim. He didn't chase surface wins. He chased the process, the way water moves, the way gold settles over centuries, the way engineering captures what nature leaves behind. The inside bend he identified wasn't luck, it was physics. The equipment rebuild wasn't guesswork, it was precision engineering tailored to that specific gold. Every move was deliberate, shaped by decades of experience and an almost instinctive understanding of the land. That's the difference between miners and legends. So what happens next? The Dietz brothers now have something they never had before, a roadmap to potential millions. How much of that $98 million projection becomes reality will depend on many factors. How far the pay streaks truly run, whether recovery rates stay high, how the equipment holds up, and whether they can scale operations successfully. But one thing is certain, Freddy Dodge gave them a fighting chance. He took a mine that was days from shutting down and turned it into one of the most promising prospects in Montana. And that's why Freddy Dodge is considered a legend in the gold mining world. It's not just about finding gold, it's about seeing what others miss, trusting the data when doubt creeps in, and turning theory into reality. The $98 million payday won't happen overnight, but the foundation is set. The gold is there, the system works, and for the first time, the brothers have real hope. And in gold mining, sometimes that's the most valuable discovery of all. So what do you think? Was this pure luck? Or was it the work of a master reading the land like a book? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe, because this story is far from finished. The race to $98 million has only just begun.